Mike, what's a good Aussie doing in Lapa in Rio de Janeiro?
What's a man like do?
What's a good
me doing in a place like this? Frank Zappa.
How did you come to open this place?
I walked into this space in 2002, and it was pure intuition. I always thought about opening a kind of a jazz club or a cultural space in Brazil. It's been a thought of mine for about 20 years. I think things take time with me, you know. But I was living in the street nearby, and I walked in here, and I felt something, the little voice in the head, and the hairs on the palm of my hand. No, I'm not crazy, but I heard purely intuition. I said, this is a place where I really should do something for art and a contribution to a country that gave me many things, gave me a doctorate, gave me a lot of love, a lot of beautiful friends and a lot of great music. So what better to do than to give something back to the culture? This reciprocity.
How do you select which artists you want to book?
Well, fortunately, the selection process is very simple. I receive about 50 to 60 emails a week, 40 to 50 to 60 emails a week from musicians all over the world who are coming to Brazil, and they've heard about TribOz. Their friends have played here, or they've read about it somewhere, and they ask me if it's possible to play here and what the conditions are. And I think about I did a survey once, about 46% of the musicians that have played here, 1,300 musicians when I did it, were from outside of Brazil, you know, which is it's a great, in terms of a dynamic, in terms of a global musical dynamic, but it's very complementary to this space that musicians consider a place of value. And so they contact me. I listen. You know, there's YouTube, my tube, your tube, everyone else's tube. And if it's awesomely good, I put it on. But it has to fit with the profile of the house.
And what is that?
The profile of the house, on the first level, I give the highest value to originality. If people have got, I mean, it's got to be great, you know. And if it's great and original, I'm really, really interested. If it's provocative, because I live to be provoked. It's very difficult to be provoked sensually with music these days, and I want to be provoked with the time I've got left. And I'd like the people who come here to be provoked if they're interested, if they share an interest similar to mine.
It's a beautiful venue with great food, by the way, and great Australian wines, of course. What kind of experience do you want people to leave here with when they visit?
What I'd like them, the first thing is, on the first level, I'd like them to wake up in the morning. I'd like everyone to wake up in the morning, even after the food and the Australian wine. I'd like them to wake up. But I'd like them to wake up feeling that they shared in the process of music. Because for me, there is a school of thought that holds that music is transmission and reception. So, for example, if I'm playing my trumpet here, it's not music. This is the preparation for a musical event. So the musical event happens when I go on the stage here or someone else, and I transmit through my trumpet, through my compositions, and it's received. So what happens in TribOz, the concept of TribOz is, and this is why I insist on silence, that the people enter into the process of transmission and reception. They wake up in the morning feeling that somehow their lives have been transformed for the better, we hope. You know. And people tell me that, I feel so good. And I always feel good, even if I get a couple hours sleep. I wake up, I slept 2 hours last night, I finished at 4 o'clock, I was in buying wine, and I feel great because I know that something wonderful is going to happen. It's going to contribute to my life in a very important way. It's not violent.
Someone who has not been to Rio, much less to Lapa, for those people, can you describe Lapa as a neighborhood?
Lapa is a neighborhood. I think, look, the world is dynamic. I think, you know, globalization, the world's a dynamic place. It's always been dynamic. When the woolly mammoths were running around looking for food, it's just that we've become more conscious of it with mass movement and cultures and musical borrowing and transculturation, musical transculturation. And I think Lapa's it's just such a dynamic and interesting space. It always has been. It's provocative. There's some things that might provoke you in a distasteful way, but that's not a bad thing. It can be turned into a learning experience. And it's a great place. It's a unique place in Brazil.
One last question. What appeals to you about the concept of live streaming, and how might that fit with what you want to accomplish for the club?
I think until we have molecular transformation, I think it's probably the next best. If I could send my molecules to Blue Note, New York, and be here, and then be in Milan, in Blue Note, Milan, listening to 3 or 5 concerts at the same time, when that happens, I hope I'm still alive. But for the time being, I think live streaming, I can be somewhere. And if the streaming is done not in a kind of a static way, which is the way that it's, where it's in its infancy, and whoever does it, if they can somehow involve the viewer by giving some control over the dynamic interaction and participation in that musical transmission and perception, I think that's fantastic. I think, people, if you're sitting in a place, what you're doing all the time is that you're singling out things that are more important for you visually and for your hearing at the time. And it seems to me that streaming without that, it's wonderful, but it's missing a very vital part of the holistic sensory experience of this transmission and research magical process. And I think that will be wonderful. I want to see everything. I can have a laptop, and have an iMac here, or a Mac, and watch 10 shows at the same time.
Let's do it. You have a great quinoa salad, by the way.